are moments when your training doesn't fail, your equipment doesn't fail, your team doesn't fail, but reality itself does. Moments when what you are seeing has no place in the world you were taught to understand. This story is about one of those moments. I'm telling it now because the men who didn't come back deserve more than a line in a classified report, and because some places on this earth don't care about rank, weapons, or intentions. They only care that you crossed a line you were never meant to cross. In 2001, we were stationed at a forward operating base, so deep in the Colombian jungle that even the maps lied about it. We called it Serpiente, but officially it didn't exist. No roads led to it. No permanent structures marked it. Just prefabricated buildings dropped into a clearing, coils of barbed wire, and enough antennas and sensors to listen to half the forest breathe. Our job wasn't to fight. It wasn't to engage. We were there to watch, to listen, to report drug routes, guerrilla movement, patterns. That was it. Eyes and ears, nothing heroic, nothing dangerous, at least on paper. Captain Mark Sullivan ran the unit. Career military, calm voice, sharp eyes. The kind of officer who knew every rule and exactly when to bend one. Sergeant Leo Ortega was his right hand. Puerto Rican, Bronx-born, 2 deployments under his belt. The kind of man who'd already seen enough darkness to know when something felt wrong. Rivera handled communications. Morales was our medic, steady hands, quiet confidence. O'Connor flew drones like they were extensions of his own nervous system. And Torres was the youngest, fresh out of infantry school. Still believed the world made sense if you followed the rules. The jungle didn't care about any of that. Heat lived there like a predator. It wrapped around you, soaked through your uniform, crawled under your skin. You were never dry. You were never clean. The air was thick enough to chew. The sounds never stopped. Insects, screaming, birds calling, things moving that you never saw. And the smell, rot layered on rot, vegetation dying so something else could live. After a while, it stopped feeling like background noise and started feeling like something was watching you breathe. 3 weeks into the mission, nothing unusual had happened. That's what made the 14th of September feel so normal at first. Routine surveillance, 2 drones up. We were in the TOC watching grainy feeds, while Sullivan marked grids with a grease pencil. O'Connor called movement. 4 armed individuals moving through heavy canopy, likely FARC. Sullivan nodded. Track them. Nothing special. Then the drone feed went black. Not static, not interference, just gone, like it had never been there at all. O'Connor froze. His hands moved fast, too fast. Reboots, diagnostics, backup systems, nothing. No signal, no beacon, no GPS. Rivera checked his console. Those drones had redundancy stacked on redundancy. Losing one system didn't matter. Losing everything at once shouldn't have been possible. Sullivan asked for the last known position. Dense canopy, 2 clicks northeast. O'Connor swore it hadn't crashed. Altitude was clean. Weather was stable. It hadn't drifted. It hadn't fallen. It had disappeared. And that's when Sullivan made the call that would kill 4 men. We were going to recover it. 6 of us went out. Light gear, suppressed weapons, in and out before dark. The jungle closed around us the moment we left the wire. Trails vanished as soon as you stepped off them. The canopy swallowed light. The deeper we moved, the quieter Torres became. He was trying to be brave. It showed in how tight he held his rifle, 2 hours in. O'Connor raised his fist. We were close. We spread out. Line formation, eyes everywhere. That's when Torres whispered contact, but not like someone who'd seen an enemy. His voice wasn't sharp. It was confused, afraid. The drone was there, or what was left of it. It wasn't crashed. It wasn't tangled. It was pinned to a massive tree, impaled through the body with a thick wooden stake, like someone had mounted it on purpose. 8 feet off the ground. Mud smeared across its casing. Handprints pressed into the metal. No one spoke for a long time. Sullivan ordered extraction immediately. That's when the sound started. Low, deep, not loud, but heavy. A vibration you felt in your chest more than your ears. It rose and fell slowly, like breathing. The jungle went quiet around it. Birds stopped. Insects died mid-song. Even the air felt still. Then came footsteps. Not running. Not sneaking, just walking. Slow. Deliberate. Wrong. We moved. Every turn we made it adjusted, herding us, guiding us. The light faded fast. The smell changed, wet fur. River mud, rot. Something old. At the stream, we saw it. Too tall, too long. Yellow eyes reflecting the last scraps of daylight. Sullivan fired. The rounds didn't matter. It didn't flinch. And when it smiled, something inside me broke that never fully healed. We crossed the stream under fire from nothing we could hurt. We ran until we didn't know where we were, until the jungle swallowed the sun, until the night took us. And that was only the beginning. We didn't stop running until our legs buckled and our lungs burned so badly. It felt like glass was scraping the inside of our chests. When Sullivan finally called a halt, it wasn't because we were safe. It was because we physically couldn't move another step. We collapsed into a shallow depression between two massive root systems that rose like walls around us, natural barricades carved by time and rot. Night had swallowed the jungle whole. There was no moonlight, no stars, just layers of black pressed on top of black. The only sounds were our breathing and the distant, endless buzz of the jungle waking up for the night. Sullivan whispered a head count. One by one, voices answered. All 6 of us were still there. That fact alone felt like a miracle we didn't deserve. Torres was shaking so hard his rifle rattled softly against his chest. Morales moved close to him, murmuring calm words that didn't seem to reach him. Ortega sat with his back to one of the roots, weapon steady, eyes locked on the darkness beyond the small circle of red light from Sullivan's flashlight. O'Connor wiped blood from his forehead, where a branch had split his skin open. Rivera checked his radio and shook his head. Dead. No signal. Not even static. The jungle felt wrong. Not dangerous in the way we'd trained for. Not hostile fire or ambush zones. It felt aware, like something was listening to us breathe. That's when the humming came back, distant at first, low moving. It didn't approach. It circled, slowly, patiently, like a predator that already knew it didn't need to rush. We all heard it, and none of us said a word. Words felt useless out there, like they might draw attention. Minutes passed, maybe an hour. Time stretched and twisted until it stopped, making sense. Then the silence came, a sudden, absolute silence, so complete it hurt. No insects, no birds, no wind, just us. And then, from somewhere beyond the trees, laughter echoed through the darkness. It wasn't human. It understood laughter, but it didn't belong to a human throat. Wet, deep, amused. Weapons came up instantly. Sullivan hissed for us to hold fire. We formed a tight circle, backs together, muzzles pointed outward. My hands were shaking so badly I had to consciously slow my breathing just to keep my finger steady on the trigger. Shadows moved at the edge of the red light. Or maybe they didn't. It was impossible to tell anymore. Footsteps joined the laughter, more than one set, different rhythms, some heavy, some light, some dragging. They circled us the way the humming had. Closer now, Torres whimpered. I'd never heard that sound come from a grown man before. Then something rushed out of the darkness straight at him. Torres screamed and fired, full auto. The muzzle flash lit the night in violent bursts, freezing the jungle into sharp, horrifying snapshots. For half a second, I saw it clearly, humanoid but wrong, limbs too long, skin coated in mud and tangled vegetation. A face caught between animal and man stretched into something that almost looked delighted. Then it was gone. Torres's rifle clicked empty. The jungle swallowed the light. There was no blood, no body, nothing, just torn leaves and shredded bark. We didn't sleep that night. Not really. We waited. We listened. We counted breaths and seconds and rounds left in our magazines. The humming came and went. Voices whispered from the darkness, low and almost kind, saying things that sounded like names. O'Connor started muttering back to them until Morales slapped his face lightly and forced him to focus. Even then, I heard it too. Faint, insistent, like something was reading us from a list. Near dawn, Torres cracked. He jumped to his feet, shouting that he couldn't stay there, that we had to move, that waiting was death. Sullivan ordered him to sit down. He didn't get the chance. Something reached out of the darkness behind him. A massive hand wrapped around his throat and yanked him backward like he weighed nothing. Torres didn't even have time to scream again. He was gone, just gone. We opened fire. Discipline vanished. We poured rounds into the night until our rifles ran dry. When the echoes died, there was nothing. No sign he'd ever been there, just his rifle lying on the ground. Dawn crept in slowly, grey and sickly. In the daylight, the jungle looked almost normal again, which somehow made it worse. We searched the area. No tracks, no blood, no drag marks. Like Torres had been erased. The only thing we found were symbols carved deep into the bark of nearby trees, forming a rough circle around where we'd been hiding. Fresh cuts, sap still bleeding. Ortega stared at them for a long time. Finally, he said his grandmother used to tell stories about something that lived by the rivers, something that took men who went too far into the jungle. He said the marks were warnings, territory signs. We moved at first light. 5 men now, exhausted, low on ammo, lost. The jungle was quiet as a grave. After hours of walking, Morales spotted smoke. A camp. Fire meant people. Hope flared just long enough to hurt. The camp wasn't human. Crude shelters, skulls on posts, fish rotting over fires. And in the center, sitting on a throne of twisted roots, was the thing, taller than before, covered in dried mud and bones and feathers, watching us. At its feet lay Torres, broken, empty. We fell back slowly, then ran when smaller shapes poured out of the shadows, clicking and skittering toward us. Ortega went down screaming. Morales and O'Connor were taken together, their voices cut off one by one behind us. Sullivan dragged me forward, shouting for me not to stop. We burst onto a trail and ran until the jungle sounds returned, until the clicking faded. Only 2 of us were left. Extraction finally answered. Helicopters hope again, fragile and desperate. We followed the trail to the clearing they told us to reach. It was a killing ground. Posts topped with human skulls, dozens of them, and the thing waiting in the center, bigger than before, surrounded by those smaller creatures, all of them watching us like we were expected. The radio died. The jungle closed in. Sullivan looked at me and said quietly that we probably weren't getting out, and that's when the humming rose to a roar. This is where most people would stop listening. This is where your mind wants to shut the door and tell you it's just a story. But if you've stayed this long, if your chest feels tight and your eyes keep flicking to the dark corners of the room, then you're already caught. Because what happened next is the part that never leaves you, the part that follows you home, the part that makes you realize some things don't want to kill you quickly. They want witnesses. And if you want to know how 2 men survived something that shouldn't exist, how the jungle finally let us go, and why I still hear that humming decades later, then stay with me, because the worst part of this story hasn't happened yet.